Hi everybody, my name is Jim and welcome back to another episode of The Lake Effect Gardener. We've hit mid-July, which I can't believe how fast the summer is going already, but I'm not going to dwell on that. But this time of year is usually the time where I have to go into the garden and take care of some maintenance things. The garden right now is pretty much taking care of itself. I do have to water here and there, but there are other things that need to be done to keep my garden growing and happy, and that's what this video is all about. So I'm going to take you into the garden and show you just a few things that I do around this time of year to keep everything in check, to make sure my plants are healthy and happy and producing as much as they possibly can. And this might be something that you guys do this time of year. I know where I am situated, where, my growing zone, we're reaching almost that halfway point of the growing season, which just, it makes me excited because I'm going to be harvesting stuff pretty soon, but it also makes me sad because, we're about to reach that top of the hill, and when things, we're going to start going down the other side, and things will, the weather's going to start getting cooler and things like that. So this is what I do this time of year to keep everything happy and going in the garden. So let's head out there now. I'm just going to show you a couple little things that you guys can do to make sure that your plants will continue to produce and to continue being happy. Tomatoes. This is an ongoing maintenance project. This is not something you do once and then you're done. It's something that happens all season long. But if you grow indeterminate tomatoes, meaning that the tomatoes will continue growing up, then there are a couple things that need to be done. So the first thing always is you need to take care of the side shoots. All right, these are the little shoots that come out kind of in the upper armpit, okay, in between the leaf and the main growing stem. So these need to come out, all right? And it's quite easy to do. All you need to do, just give it a bend and it pops right off, okay? These can be rooted and you can create a brand new tomato plant with them. I have plenty. Okay, so I'm going to be sending this over to the compost pile, so I'm not going to worry about that. This foliage smells amazing. Other things that you can do as well is at the bottom of the plant, okay, you could take some leaves off the bottom. Now, if you have problems with blight where you grow your tomatoes, you really want none of the foliage to touch the ground because that's where blight is born, okay? So you just tear off the bottom portions. You've got nice open space down here, and that way more air circulation, less chance for blight. And then of course the last part is tying in the main growing stem so that they continue growing up. And I have, this was all the leftover from when I was in the polytunnel doing the tomato training cordons, whatever you want to call it, all the excess that I had that I cut off. I told you that I would save, and this is a great thing to save it for. Okay, so you get yourself a length. Okay, you find your main growing stem. And what I like to do is just to give it a loop first around the stem, okay? I don't do any knotting, I don't do any tying onto the main growing stem. I do a loose loop, okay? And then I tie it to the cane. All right. again, this is going to help when it comes to air circulation. If you don't tie up your tomatoes, they're going to flop over, they're going to touch each other. There's not going to be a decent amount of air circulation. So we want to keep the tomatoes kind of off of each other. I've got these planted in really, really close. It also helps for when you're going in to do little routine maintenance jobs and things like that. You'll have the space to walk through it. So this is a really, really great thing to do. So if you haven't done so already, I'm sure most of you have, get in there and tie up those tomatoes. Another tying up activity that you can do in your garden is if you are training any sort of vine up a growing trellis. Now you guys know in this garden I am doing a ton of vertical gardening, and I'm here at one of my cucumber tunnels. Okay, this one's closest to the garage. And you will have the errant vine that will not necessarily want to grab onto the trellis. This one has done a pretty good job. This is a Slice Master cucumber, but this vine is currently kind of doing its own thing. So sometimes you need to come in here and convince them to grow the way that you want them to. So same idea, and you have to be very, very, very careful when you're training melon vines of any kind, because even though they have a really thick, hardy stem, for the most part, the stem is pretty much hollow, okay, and can easily break. You don't want to break off the growing stem of your vine, okay? If you do, you may have certain vines that will send out secondary shoots, which is great, but I just don't want to take that risk because I want to yield as much as possible. I just love the look of that cucumber flower. It's lovely. So, same technique with the tomatoes. All right, I'm going to just give it a loop. Okay, I don't want to strangle it. And I'm just going to gently pull it up onto the trellis and give it a tie. I want these cucumbers to reach for the stars. I want them to go all the way up, and possibly around. I think that would be a really awesome look. These two varieties do grow into monstrous plants, which is why I chose these two varieties. So they're making their way up. I mean, if you can see where this vine is now, it's nearly up to my shoulder, and I'm a really tall guy, so they're doing their job. I do have other vines over here that are even taller than me. So we want to give them as much encouragement as possible. Now, if you notice here, I've got one of these climbing tendrils. What's nice about tying this in is it's going to give this tendril, which I'm just going to kind of convince, okay, around this trellising, will grab on and hopefully continue that ascent up towards the top. Here's another tendril. Hopefully this will take it too. So, tying up melons. Very, very important job this time of year. I'm over here now next to the garage, and this is what remains of my broad bean bed, okay? I had left the plants in, but it's time to have these out. So another important job is getting crops that are done cleared so that we can start preparing the bed for what's going to go next in here. And what's going next in here is going to be purple sprouting broccoli, okay? So I had said when I was originally doing my broad bean sowing, this was like the first sowing I did of the growing season, that you could, if you wanted to, just cut whatever legume you're growing, any kind of bean, you could cut at the very base and leave the rootstock in there, because as we know, legumes are nitrogen fixers. So by leaving the root system in there, you're essentially leaving that nitrogen-rich kind of bundle of goodness on the inside, which will thus feed the next go when it comes to replanting. I'm not gonna do that, okay? I'm actually just gonna tear these puppies out. There's a lot of weeds in here, and then I'm going to put down some organic fertilizer, kind of dig that in, give it a little bit of a tickle, and let the bed sit for about a week, okay? Just to make sure that all that nutrient-dense fertilizer gets inside of the soil before I plant in. So I'm just gonna plant these out, and you can see the rootstock isn't all that big. All right, but I do need the room. So I'm gonna tear these bad boys out. I have to say, I did have the broad beans. I made myself a... Oh, I missed a pod. Glory day. Let's get this out. Anyways, as I was saying, I made myself a little harvest bake with a dinner not too long ago with what I harvested. And I put the broad beans in with them, and they were gorgeous. They were lovely. So I'm just gonna have the rest of these out. Give this a good weed and a good top dressing. And then in a few weeks' time, I will get in my winter brassicas. If you recall, when I planted all of my brassicas into the brassica bed, so this is cauliflower and I have some cabbage and things like that, I did a multi-planting, okay? There were maybe 2 or 3 small seedlings inside of each cell when I planted it in the ground. This is something that's kind of a little bit overdue, but something that I need to do nonetheless, and that's I need to do some thinning. So I have 3 cauliflower here, okay? Cauliflower loves space. It needs space in order to get really, really big, really wide. And then eventually, when the curd starts to form, okay, we want it to have enough room to spread out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just prune out the 2 weakest, okay? Now it's kind of hard to tell you the truth. This one looks bigger, but this one looks like it's had more damage to it. Okay, so I think I'm gonna take this one out and leave this one. So I'm gonna take one out here, and then there's a small one growing here in the middle. Take that one out as well. And now I've got one really nice looking sturdy plant, okay, that will have room to really grow and really flourish, and plenty of room for that curd to form so that I can have some lovely cauliflower. I'm gonna get on with the rest of this. Okay, so there's just no better angle to film this at, so the sun is in my eyes. I apologize if I'm squinting. Another wonderful job to get on this time of year is to make sure that you keep your flowers pruned, okay? Deadheaded, all right? Just for this example, I'm gonna be showing you my lovely Gertrude Jekyll, David Austin Rose. It has not disappointed with the blooms. They've been gorgeous, they smell amazing, but at the very end here, okay, I've got a rose that's just about to start dropping its petals, okay? And you want to encourage more blooms. So I'm just going to take my shears here and go right to the base of the growing stem, okay? And give it a prune. Now, I spy with my little eye there is a tiny little Japanese beetle in there, which means that they're starting to emerge now, and they're likely going to wreak havoc on our roses and things like that. And it's good to get in there and, you know, take a look at what you've got going on in the way of your flowers. If you do have pests like this, if you just kind of leave them to their own devices, you're not going to be able to see, okay, if you have a pest or not, okay? So if anything, deadheading flowers is also a great way for you to make sure that you can maintain your flowers. And look, after pruning that, I've got 2 lovely new buds that are growing on here. So there's also other spent blooms in here. Okay, we want to get rid of those. The more you prune, the more it will produce. Okay, so get out there and start deadheading. Squash, melons, things like that. They really are the greedy guts of the garden, okay? And as you can see, they put on a great deal of growth in a very short amount of time. So it's really, really important this time of year, if you want to continue that growing and you want to make sure that they're healthy and getting all the nutrients that they need, is to give them a feed, okay? So for this, what I'm going to be doing is going to be giving them a top dressing of organic fertilizer pellets, okay? I'm going to show you how to do that in a second, but first, I couldn't let this pass up. All right, I'm going to show you how I feed my plants. When you're doing a top dressing, okay, the key to that is getting the fertilizer, whether you use a liquid or a granulated fertilizer, to get it around the plant, okay? You're not really looking to get it as close to the rootstock as possible, okay? The roots at this point have really reached for the stars, well, reached for the basement, okay? So you want to be able to feed the roots. That's super, super important. So I've got my granulated fertilizer right here. And all I'm gonna do is a very light sprinkling all around the spaces here, okay? Just want to be careful that you don't go too close to the base of the plant. Some fertilizers, if you're not paying attention, can be a little volatile, meaning high in nutrients, high in nitrogen. If you get too close to the plant, you could end up burning the plant, so you don't want that to happen, okay? So just a little sprinkle here and there. Give it the extra boost. As soon as it rains or you water your garden, all of those pellets are going to break down and it's going to feed your plants. All right, there's one more thing I want to show you that I do in the way of maintenance to make sure that your plants are healthy, safe, and happy. The last piece of the puzzle is mulching, okay? And this is something that I've really gotten into this year, and it has obviously done well by me. So I mulch with grass clippings. I do have a rather substantial backyard here, and so I'm utilizing the grass clippings as best I can. Grass clippings are great because they are nitrogen rich, and they do a really good job at keeping the weeds at bay and keeping the soil nice and moist underneath. So I did give these an initial mulch at the very beginning when I planted these in, and there is not much left, okay, which is great. That means that it's broken down. That means that the earthworms are coming up and grabbing all that goodness and bringing it back into the soil. So I want to do, okay, the weeds are starting to come up. I want to do another mulching, and it just so happens that I do have some more grass clippings. Okay, these are a couple days old. They've been sitting inside the bag here for a second. And when you mulch with grass clippings, you want to make sure that you do a very light layer, okay? Don't go nuts and put 3 inches of mulch in there, okay? Grass clippings, unfortunately, if you go too heavy on them, will begin to rot and they'll become slimy and nasty, okay? Which will not be good for your plants whatsoever. So a nice layer of fresh is better, of grass clippings will keep the weeds down, keep the moisture in, and add a little bit more nutrition to your soil. It's just the best part of the growing season when it comes to the little relaxing maintenance jobs. These jobs don't take a lot of time. You can do a little here, you can do a little there, and it's really relaxing. You get out there in the early morning before the summer sun blazes down on you, maybe have a little music going in the background, and it's just really relaxing. And it pays off, it really does. So those are just a few ideas, things that I've been getting on with. If you guys have any other ideas that you would like to share with the Lake Effect community, please feel free to put them in the comments box below so that other people can find out different things that could be done this time of year and not just what I put here on this video. So I hope you guys are just puttering around and enjoying everything growing. I hope you guys have some surprise harvests because you are digging into those nooks and crannies to do just a little maintenance. That zucchini was not on my radar at all, and I'm glad I grabbed it when I did because it's the perfect size. I hope you guys are well. I hope your gardens are doing amazingly. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. Please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, thumbs up, and leave your comments. I'm not sure what the next video is going to be. I'm just trying to think of what's going to go through my mind here. It might be a canning video. I reckon it's going to be a canning video. Make do Mondays. We're going to be canning some fresh fruit. Woohoo! And I'll be going back to my old World War II format as to keep it appropriate. So until then, I hope you're all well, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. So long.